What's up, everybody? This is Josh coming at you. I just wanted to. I've seen a lot of people doing the favorite gaming memories going around on the internet. I just wanted to share with you guys mine.
Skull, 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 skull.
So essentially, throughout my life, there's been off and on moments with gaming, just getting into it. There's been times when I've been far more into the gaming, and other times when just life is busy. You just don't have time for it as much. But reflecting on what my favorite gaming memories are, it's pretty easy actually in my mind to figure out which one is going to be my favorite. Some of the other ones that pop out my mind are just generally I remember being a kid and the first system that I had was an Atari 2600. We really didn't have a lot of money when I was a kid. My family wasn't very well off. So I remember getting an Atari 2600. It was actually my dad's in the household and everybody kind of played it. But we really didn't have any games for it to begin with. I remember for the longest time we had one game that we played, and it was Frogs and Flies. Not Frogger, but Frogs and Flies. This was a game where you had little frogs, and they would jump from the lily pads, and they would try to jump up, and you try to catch the flies as they went by and got points for doing it. Not the most entertaining game, but I remember that was actually probably my first video game memories were from that game because that was the game that we had to play. Eventually, we started getting some more games, and we were able to play different games like Combat, Pac-Man, different things like that. But honestly, until the Nintendo hit America, Atari was pretty much all my memories that I had for the games. And I remember as a kid, my stepbrother and I were outside playing one day, and this guy comes up to us and he's like, "Hey, how you guys doing? I've got a son about your age." And obviously at that time we're like, "What's the deal with this adult guy walking up on us like this?" And he's like, "But maybe you guys, he's about your same age. Maybe you guys would like to hang out with him." So we were like, "Okay, well, why don't you bring him up and introduce him to us?" So he brought his son up, and you could tell right off the break that his son was totally embarrassed. Like, "Oh my God, my dad! I can't believe my dad is bringing somebody up here to, introduce us. This is so embarrassing." But I ended up actually being best friends with him for a long time, probably 5 or 6 years. Growing up as a kid, we kind of fell apart as our teenage years hit. But I remember my first experience with the Nintendo Entertainment System was at his house. He had an NES. And I remember all my video game experiences had been with the Atari 2600 and that level of gaming. And then the first time I saw Super Mario Brothers, I was just like completely blown away. It was unbelievable. Just the graphics. You were like, "Oh my God, look at the way that cloud looks in the background. Look at the way, he's able to jump around." It was just phenomenal. And a couple years later, like I said, my parents didn't have a whole lot of money, so they were able to surprised me on Christmas with a Nintendo Entertainment System, and that is probably one of my fondest, maybe not completely my fondest gaming memory, but that was definitely getting that Nintendo on that Christmas morning when I knew my parents really couldn't afford it. They knew that I wanted it really bad, and they made things work with what they were able to do in order to get that Nintendo for me, and that was a pretty special moment. And I've had so much fun. I'm so nostalgic for Nintendo. Now, it's funny that Atari was my first video game system, but I'm not nostalgic at all really for Atari. I don't even own one now. I don't even know if I want to own one or not because, it just didn't grab me like that. It is my first memories, but the Nintendo is really what drew me into video games over the course of my lifetime. And I remember that Christmas morning just being able to get that Nintendo, and I was just so excited that they were able to do that for me. That was probably my best Christmas ever, just being able to get that Nintendo and be able to play different games. Now, I still couldn't afford a whole lot of games for the system, it was more or less like I would rent games, or I would go to my friend's house, the one that I was talking about, and he would rent games, and we'd play games like all weekend, different kind of games between the Nintendo and the Game Boy. He ended up getting a Game Boy later on. I never owned a Game Boy myself, but we would switch back and forth between playing the Nintendo, playing the Game Boy, and it was very cool. Another memory that I have from way back when I was a kid was, and I've touched on another video, was that I actually traded an entire G.I. Joe collection. I had a pretty good G.I. Joe collection. I had like 50 or 60 of the different little action figures, and had vehicles and tanks and planes and helicopters and all this stuff for it. And I ended up trading them for about 10 or 12 NES games. And for the life of me, I can't even remember now what the games were. The one game that I remember was Hudson's Adventure Island. That was the only game of the bunch that I remember. And I remember my parents being like, well, I don't think you should do this, but it's your stuff, so you can do what you want to. And they were really cool about it. And I did it, and I kind of wish I still had the G.I. Joes versus the Nintendo games, or I don't have either one of those, to be honest with you. But getting to the point of what probably my favorite video game memories are, probably the two systems that I'm most nostalgic for over the course of my entire life. And I've owned a lot, but the two that I'm most nostalgic for are probably the NES, for the reasons that I've already mentioned, and the N64. Now, the N64 hasn't really aged as gracefully as the NES or the Super Nintendo or the Genesis or any of those systems, but I remember having so much fun with the N64, with the 4-player couch co-op, multiplayer setups. I would play all the time with either my roommates at the time. At the time the N64 came out, I was around 20 years old. So through my early 20s, I had the N64, and we had so much fun with that system. The fact that you could play 4 players plugged in right there next to one another, it was so great. I remember so much time that I spent playing Quake 2, GoldenEye 007, the 4 THQ wrestling games, WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy, and the WCW Revenge and all. We had so much fun playing those games. Those were probably my fondest memories through my entire life of playing games. Just the fact that you could sit there and just mess with each other and play those games over and over again were phenomenal. And it's just, for me, that is just where I'm at when it comes to my favorite memories. I mean, I've had a lot of memories since then that have been good. Playing games with my kids as I've gotten older. I have never really jumped deep into the multiplayer online, but I love couch co-op. Truthfully, now I kind of wish I had more friends that I was able to play couch co-op with right here in my game setup. But honestly, when I look back at those times, those were probably my best gaming memories. Between the NES and playing with a couple of my friends, just with the different stuff, switching back and forth between all the games like Bionic Commando and Russian Attack, and the Super Mario Brothers games, all the way up to the N64, where we had the 4-player couch co-op, just blasting each other with GoldenEye, having a good time. Even as an honorable mention, I would say, even to the point of the PlayStation 2 era, I remember a lot of friends coming over, and we'd get some drinks in us and stuff like that. We'd just take turns playing Grand Theft Auto 3, just running around, seeing how much chaos you could cause within those games, and just how many stars could you get? How long could you last after you got like 5 stars against you before they would kill you off? But gaming has been a big part of my life. There's been times off and on where I don't get to do too much gaming, but depending upon how life is, all of us are adults. We understand what's going on in the world with responsibilities with parenthood and jobs and things of that nature. But I tend to spend a lot of times with games where I'll spend, I'll focus in on one game and I'll just spend a lot of time. I try to get as close to 100% or as close as I can to just finishing all the content for a game. So I tend to spend a lot of time with games. But as far as gaming memories go, those are some of my best gaming memories growing up and through my early adulthood. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Definitely like, subscribe if you haven't already. Comment. I love talking to you guys. It's the whole reason that I do these videos. I enjoy the banter back and forth between you guys, just the conversation. It makes me feel like I'm part of something with you guys, and I think it's pretty fucking awesome. So until next time, cheers.